All right. Welcome to another episode of the Talented Learning Executive Briefing Series. This is my favorite series of content because we get to travel the world virtually and meet with the world's best learning tech solutions. And today's no different. We're on our way to Chicago, and we're going to check out Authentic Learning Labs with their founder, Tamer Ali. Tamer, take it away.
Well, it's nice to meet you, John, again. We've
For the 400th
had,
time.
yes. Hopefully, it hasn't gotten boring, but we're Authentic Learning Labs, and we're based out of Chicago, but we're a global company. We have teammates around the world and clients who serve around the world. We work with what we consider high-profile business critical learning. Typically, that's professional education. These are adult learners that are taking content and courses from their what would be considered the brands or the expert organizations, whether the professional certification bodies or for-profit entities. They're considered essentially the go-tos for their industries, and we're lucky enough to work with them. This is a labor of love, and we've been doing this for a long time. This is a company that spun out of seeing what we saw in the market, which was even with the largest and most high-profile companies that we work with, we saw a resource gap when that we thought was troubling, especially with the growing importance of learning and learning technology. Specifically, we saw that these groups are still starved for resources to get expertise, technical expertise to do the work. They needed to envision the bigger concepts they wanted. They're in their second or third generation learning installations or platforms. And they were hitting a ceiling. Typically the market, they were offering, RFPs and requests to get assistance. The typical vendor pitch was a pitch. It was a standard canned approach to something with a tool that, you drop on a table and said, this is our tool and this is what it does. And if it fits, that's great. If not, then, these advanced organizations were kind of out of luck. And having been part of those conversations with other iterations of our experience, we figured that there was a need for someone, and we don't want to have illusions of grandeur to call ourselves IBM, but we kind of use that metaphor or an example as like IBM or high-profile consulting company that comes in that understands the space, will do the homework and the diligence necessary to really understand the business objectives, and also bring in a tool set and portfolio of experience. So it might be some of their own tools, and in the case of ours, we bring our own tools. But as craftsmen and what we consider consultative approach experts, we want to also be neutral to all the platforms that are out there and tools. So when we come in, we're typically solving a problem or an opportunity that needs to be addressed. And that's authentic. I think that was a long-winded introduction, but hopefully that was the right point for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us about the solution.
So maybe I can talk through it and show it as we do it. And
Okay.
maybe that'll be more attractive than to look at me through this whole session, if that's okay.
So love looking at stuff.
Sounds good. So as we discussed, from our perspective, experiences were getting much more advanced. And so Simpatico, our platform, was born out of this need to advance things, but also have, the benefits of SaaS and internet-based technology. So Simpatico is trying to solve some problems. Some of our clients, in the example, this one, do very nuanced versions of content. So some of the content issues that they face, for example, if you build a course in Articulate, which is a top and very good part of many organizations' portfolio of tools, Articulate will build a course and essentially you put it on the web and launch it. People are happy. It does things in what we would consider rapid authoring fashion. But if you want to do things like live publishing, if you want to branch content because someone did something in one part of the content and it should trigger other actions, or if you want to offer advanced localization or theming or white labeling to other organizations, those things are somewhat advanced in many ways out of the realm of these current tools. So Simpatico, if I launch a tool from Simpatico, and I'll just go into one just as an example, and I'm in the back end of the tool. The tool is not just it's a platform. It's not just an authoring tool that just takes content and puts a course together. But as you can see in this example, if I search for the concept of California, I'll find all the content that relates to California. If I do it, this is a company that deals with different states, and each state has its own variation of the course. So our platform is handling the course in variations, sorry, and then offering different rules. So within these courses, or an example in Mississippi, the rules are different for that state. These happen to be insurance pre-licensure courses. So if I'm an insurance agent in Biloxi, Mississippi, I'm going to have to take courses in a different fashion than someone who, let's say, is in Concord, California. As you can see, even by the titles of these assets, they're different in that they have different requirements. In the parentheses, the title requires them to stay for 32 hours before they can even complete it. That's one of the completion criteria. So these courses are more robust than your standard learning course that you develop and articulate. For example, in this case in California, they are required to stay 32 hours before it's even considered complete, in addition to anything else that they have to do in terms of requirements. In many states, for this particular industry and in this company, they may have to also pass practice exams, a certification exam. They might have to take sequence content. So I'm going to go in as a demo user, so it's not going to recognize me. But what you'll start seeing, and I'll start annotating some of the things, is there's a required time. There's time tracking. So in certain states, their time is tracked. And then the chapters of the content are organized in a accordion fashion here. And as you can see, hopefully, you won't be able to launch anything else other than the first chapter because it's a sequence. Now, every state is different, but the core content, if I launch the other course, will be the same in that the client is essentially producing this content, and then variations of it are going to be produced by the assembly in Simpatico, our tool set. So in this case, it's a 32-hour requirement, and I can learn more if I go here. There are content recommendations and the recommended study tips, and they're also specific to the state. So you see some what we call content gates. You also see is that in the practice exam, I'm able to launch it, right? So you'll see that I'm able to launch it, but I'm not able to do the other ones. Again, just like the lesson content, the exam content is graduated so that there are gates. I cannot, and these messages are also tailorable within the platform. Where you can see here is I must pass, and I'll just zoom in here so you can see this. I must pass the practice exam before I can take the readiness exam. The readiness exam is somewhat of a marking label, but what it's really telling the person is once they pass this exam, they're ready for the actual classroom-based proctored exam that they would take to get the license. So this course is a pre-licensure prep course, and in every state it varies. And then in every state, there might even be different products. They might have a life insurance, they have a code and ethics, they have a casualty. And these are all stored within the assets of the system. So when you go in here, they're all here. And the system will track and control certain things. So we have a concept of behaviors. So they can use behaviors in different courses. So here, there's one for max time. In certain states, OSHA requirement that no more than 10 or 8 hours are spent in the course. There are also other requirements, a security timeout at 10 minutes if they're not active in the course. These become add-on features that they can add to any course without programming. They just have features that they've defined here, and then they add them to the concepts of the course when their courses are being assembled. So as you can see, there's 2 max time. Some states have 8, some of them 10. There's also conditions, meaning I can have if-then statements that if John has purchased the right product SKU, he'll get flashcards and video gallery. So what they're doing is almost like when you go to Starbucks or your most your most preferred food vendor. You'll also have the options of doing a small, medium, large, or I forgot what they have in Starbucks, a tall, venti, grande, or something like that. They have variations of the product, so they're selling the product in a marketing levels of features. So depending on the price you pay, you can get more features, but the course is the same, and this platform supports that. And then you'll see that there are they have also special services for a specific client. So if they have a big client, they can also have features added to them. You'll see also a user prefers Spanish. If the person does prefer Spanish, then when you go to a course that has the content in Spanish, it'll already set the content to Spanish. But as you can see here, as an option the client has, they can also offer it as a toggle. As you can see right away, the entire course is toggled to that language. And you can see here, once I enter the course, everything is in Spanish. So the local, exactly, gracias. And so you'll see here is, as I'm doing this, there's some other things that will show you as we're doing this, very much like XAPI, and we can use XAPI as a structure as well. Everything the participant is doing is very important to this client for predictive analytics for their own clients and for their own teams to determine what areas are having trouble, what areas are doing well, etc. So all the actions from my point of launching to me switching to another tab to completing a page where there's a scroll, I know that it happens. I scrolled it, that creates a completion. Moving to a next page and playing a video, everything is part of the course and tracked in analytics. So again, differentiating between an authoring tool that's pure rapid authoring, where I take many times a PowerPoint slide and import it, and it becomes a course. In this case, we're actually taking and building not only the course content, the layout, setting the themes, the style, but then there are what we consider smart features that are what we would consider like web apps, the conditional access to the content based on rules that you pass. In certain states, you have to pass a certain number of exams before you're added to completion. In some places, you have to finish the chapters in sequence. So you have to finish the chapter quiz before going to the next one. Everything is tracked. Everything in terms of the activity is shown in the analytics, so that the client receives them in real time as the person proceeds through the course. So this is one example of what we consider a smart web platform for learning. And Simpatico, it's not just authoring. There's the content organization and assembly that you can put all your assets in. It could be any type. I mean, these are you can tag them. So you can tag them. You can set SCORMs, AICC, LTI, multimedia, H5P, and this list is growing. It could be a web launch. It could be Tin Can XAPI. We're neutral to that. Add any content to it. Then assemble that content into legitimate courses, and we'll show you another one in a moment here. And then display that. And so another example of another client is a simpler.
Stop you a quick.
Sure.
Can I interject real quick to make sure that I understand? So when you're showing all those California and Mississippi courses, all these different versions and flavors, are they all pulling from a central library of assets, so that if you change those assets, they're reflected?
Yes.
Or maybe a better way, for that, each one of those that you showed in that big list for all the California, are you going in and building the conditions one at a time for each of those that's pulling from the centralized assets?
It's a great point, John. What we're doing for this particular client, so there's choice in there, there's flexibility. But in general, what's happening for this client is they're pushing this content to us via publish. So that is basically sending us a flat text file that says chapter 1 has this content. Our team has designed an API that reads all that information and publishes a course out of it. So nobody's actually interfering with pieces here. They can do live edits here if they wish, but they want to publish this content. And like you said, if one like a building block piece is changed, the client wishes to send that change to us, that will reflect in all the courses that have that building block, which is very important for a regulated environment like this one, where maybe one state policy changes, then it will make it in one place. But if a global or a more regional thing changes, then they can make it once there and then reflect it to anywhere that block appears in the course. So it's a very big effect that in its scaling that someone doesn't have to go one by one and make those changes. So it's very much like a website development or a publishing environment where it's peer publishing. There's a source. That source gets changed because state regulation, content, some error or mistake or update and revision. Then you push it. The course will reflect it immediately. They can certainly version as well if they wish to just decommission one and create a new version 2.0, 3.0. But a lot of cases, they just want to keep the live course because there are people continuously taking content. In this case, this is supported in this way, in this particular model.
Okay, thank you.
That's a great point, John. So other examples of this, and we'll show other items in this, but the key thing here is it is also allowing us to do different layouts in various ways. So a client may want to present content in a very different way. These layouts are totally supported and can be reused over and over. So once a template is created, in this case, it's more of like a gallery matrix view where you have these tiles. When I click on the tile, it goes into another component of our capabilities, which is video. And so we have a built-in video player so that the clients who wish to add video to their courses can leverage this tool. So what does it do that's different? The video player is launched like a course, so we can track completion at the very least. It knows what the person is doing at every point, the pauses and plays, the completion of criteria you set. So let's say John comes to me and he says he wants to make sure in his university, in his program, and I know he has one, the videos are all watched at a 90% or 95% from the time track before it's completed. That's no problem. That's just set. And then all the people will be tracked for that. As you can see, the completion criteria is also marked here in the are presented in the introduction. There are other niceties. There's the closed captioning. So if there is closed captioning, it'll present it like we did here. I'm push play, so you can see that. The other things are that if we're also able to handle, so this happens to be in English.
Play along in our game today.
This person is speaking. This happens to be in English. Now, if we had the client choice, the client has a choice to actually translate in this other. So our tool set will also be able to translate in other languages and provide closed captioning in different languages. So they would have different options here. On the right, you'll see is a transcript. This text transcript is automatically generated through AI. And this is quite fast. Now, we've been able to enhance this even further. Within seconds, a text transcript of a 10-minute or a 20-minute or 30-minute video was generated. And then we have a tool within the backend that allows you to edit for formatting and things like that. These are time-stamped and they're standardized to the international standard, the BTT standard. So they're not, any kind of, speculative approach. They're actually standardized to the approach that will allow you to use timestamps and even share the track to other entities if you wish. This is built into the tool. It'll allow you to ask questions of the expert. So you can, at the timestamp, ask someone and send an expert this question. You can search the video. So if I just say, I know there was a reference to Panelists here, and I know there was, I can go right to it. I click on it.
Panelists review with the contestants.
So hopefully you hear that audio
and see how they compare.
And I can stop it here. So this becomes an indexed file to the video anywhere it is. So if I click on the word,
which answer was right, which ones were wrong, why they were wrong,
I can go right to it. So
ethics rules and ethics issues, as many.
So there's no magic here. We're using international standards. We're using an MP4, which is an international standard for the video format. And then we are adding our own capabilities on top of it. So we take the video that's standing in a lot of people's drives and hard disks and just sitting there after a nice webinar, but we were making it a course, and clients are using it in this fashion to launch content. So in this case, there's a nice progression of different scenarios. And this client actually does very intensive classroom courses and then produces them again and launches them as a self-paced. This is actually also sequenced, so I have to finish one before I go to the other. As you can see, they're highlighting the speakers and experts in their field. This is the preeminent professional education for the law profession in North America and globally. And so you could see the content here, and they manage this all on their own. They manage all their assets here as well, so they could see that you can find all their content here. If I knew a particular name of a product, I can go find it, and I can preview it right here. If it happens to be that my customer is asking to launch this from their own LMS, I could simply go here, find the URL, download it as a SCORM or AICC, and segregate the reports in a section here. So if I give it to PepsiCo or down the street, Google has asked me, or Kellogg's has asked me to take this content and launch it from their own LMS, I simply download the preferred format, and we also support LTI and CMI. This will download a package, and they can launch it from their own LMS. And separately, I can also go in and segregate that usage so I can see the reporting data. What do I mean by that is in every content item. So if I go back to our example of Mississippi here, in the insurance course, if I go to the particular course that I'm looking for, and this is it, I go to the section here, and there's also other components here that you'll see to the right. One is a preview, one is edit, and one is I can see the actual structure of the course. So if I wanted to, I can just see the structure of the course. This allows me to see if I built the course the right way. I can see this everything, and the system is creating this so I can see how I've built the course. So you can see this is a very deep course, and doing such a thing allows them to see as an author or an expert, how is the course constructed? Does it look right? And as you can see, it's all in sequence. It's all designed as they wish. Now, if I go into the others component, it's a preview, or I can go to the edit, and I'll quickly just go to the edit, and you'll see some other things. Specifically enrollments. I can see everybody, and I'm able to show you this because these are unidentifiable people. It's another benefit. They're also in testing. This is a particular course is in testing, so it's okay. One key aspect of this is these user IDs are all we need. We don't even need to identify people by name. So clients that are in a specific secure environment or very sensitive to personal information, they can just send identifiers to help us uniquely identify them. But we do not need names or email addresses or anything like that. And in fact, this client does that. And as you can see, these people are completed. You can see all the details around them, the time they spent, when did they first visit, their last visit, their completion date. We've removed some of these for other reasons, and then time to complete. So if I just wanted to know who the last person to complete, or the first person to complete, or the last person, I can just sort it. You can see it so quickly, I can see that information. I can also just, if I wanted to change their status, I can also change it in here as well. I can also see where they actually spent, just like that structure map. I can see where they went and spent their time in the course. So some pretty deep analytical stuff. Is this the right thing for someone who's just putting up a compliance course to make sure everybody took the annual sexual harassment course? Maybe not. But if it's a publisher who's serious, or someone who's thriving in their business and building a learning environment for their customers, and they need to advance their knowledge about how people are consuming their content, how people are going through the content, or to enrich the content with these features, that's the angle we're going for with this. And those are the kinds of groups that are using this. Now you'll see some other things that are kind of a little bit more advanced, but they're alternatives, meaning there could be variations of that same base course for other reasons. In this client specifically, there's two variations called You Can Pass and Pass Now that have identical features, although one has a certificate exam, one doesn't. And so the reason that is that the particular client that they have wants the variation so that they can bypass the exam when it's not required. Same course, but a variant we call the alternative within there. So within these courses, you'll find other features as well. So there's, we talked about the chapters and we talked about the quizzing. There's also supplementary reading. You can see the content that's here. And as we do this, all of it's tracked. I'll pause here to make sure I keep a steady pace here, but wanted to make sure that I stop just to take a moment to answer any questions, John, and
Okay.
Any clarifications.
All right. So ExamFX in general then, so they're going to have a front end that's separate from this, that is an LMS or a quasi LMS, and this is sitting behind. The learners would never see this, just the authors and the managers of the system. But what the learner sees is when you serve it up through some other system. Is that a correct way to think about this?
That's correct, John. So like if I were actually a learner, I would actually go to ExamFX.com and I would start here. So they have a commercial web entity and presence where I log in, I buy my products, and you'll see that here's the courses. You'll see the variations of those courses here that we talked about. So here you can see that there's 3 variations: the self-study, video, and live and learning. And you can see how they differentiate. The last few features, flashcards, audio, and live online. So I didn't even mention this, but it'll connect them to, they use GoToMeeting or WebEx launching from their course. So in certain states, you'll see that that they'll have different features, and that one happens to be that they have a course and they have live online training. I have to find the one that's correct, but that's how they do it. So you're exactly right. There's a business portal in front of it, and there's some terminology people are using like headless LMS. In this case, there is a headless approach here. Is the head is owned by the client and controlled by the client, which they wish. They handle the commerce, the identification of the people, and then at some point they click a launch to launch content that looks like this.
That's where it comes from. All right, cool. So would a fair assumption to say if you're doing hairy, scary stuff like this, where you have all the variations and all of that, a traditional LMS would fall short on doing that. So what they do is they build their own front end to account for all these variations. They have to skip a traditional out of the box front end, and they have to build their own front end. And then, so they wouldn't even really need an LMS then. Everything's just happening from the back end. You're driving, you're basically driving all the rules from an invisible
And in some
standpoint.
cases, you're right, John. In some cases with these advanced users, the advanced organizations have gotten to a point and said, look, we're handling the CRM through Salesforce. We're handling a commerce through NetSuite or some of these big providers that are handling, it's almost like in the back of the days, ERP. It's handling inventory. It's handling the skewing and the credits and the licensing. And we have an identity management, and we have SSO through Ping or one of the SAML products. So we've kind of got this ecosystem of products, and we've been hacking around, and we have 5 different LMSs. We have open source from Moodle to commercial entities, all of them viable, good partners and platforms. But what we're needing is to push the envelope and say, look, we need to launch a course that's acting like a web app that people are used to in other environments and can give us more intelligence about how they're using it and what they're doing, not only just for a marketing sense, but as you can see here, another client, I'm showing you de-identified information. I have to caution everybody about this sometimes, but for a client who's running a program, they ran into the difficulty of getting reporting data. So we're basically using Simpatico to listen to the data and pull together these advanced dashboards. Now, visually, there's a lot of numbers and text here, and there's a reason for this particular one, because who would look at this is the program director at University of Penn or the Mayo Clinic or one of the leading programs. This is a program that any participating orthopedics resident training program around the world will see. They lead their residents through it's a nice name, ROC, Resident Orthopedic Core Knowledge here. And this is a launchable from the course. So it reads, Simpatico reads the identity of the person. And if they're the program director for the University of Pennsylvania, they're going to see this. And for what the breakdown is program year 1, program year 2, 3, 4. So these are the years of their participating students, residents. These are doctors in training to become great orthopedic surgeons. And what you'll see is we've de-identified them, but they're different resident names. These are people training to become doctors. And what was important for them is taking these drill in practice. So every week they're learning about a specific aspect of orthopedics. In this case, I think this particular week, and we can change the time frame here because this is real data. So you'll see how fast. So this analytics dashboard for this particular client is meant to be a lot of work for someone to, not a lot of work, a lot of places where they can do their work and find all the data they need. So in this case, I did last year, and you can see the data has changed. Or if I change it to this year, you'll see different data. So right away, and this is real time. So if I just do last year, just because of the volume of the data here, you'll see all the information. And as I scroll down, you'll see other participating data. This is performance by topic. So I could see how they did in foot and ankle and general principles, hand and wrist, oncology, sports medicine. And if I wanted to, I could see, okay, well, what about my first year residents or my second year, third year? And the reason why you're not seeing them consistently around everything is because this is real data. Those participating residents haven't taken those topics yet. So this is missing here because they haven't taken any of these. So our system is scouring the exam questions, recognizing what topic they are, recognizing how they did in them, and then charting it against these graphs. So for a program director, our intent was to tell the story. How am I doing? To answer the questions, how is my program doing? What are the strengths and weaknesses of my program in numbers and a clear view in one view? These guys are looking at screens all day and night, right? So what we want to do is simple graph to say, okay, I can see my program. The blue is the average. This program is doing lower than the average for basic science. I need to work on that. Or shoulder, as you can see, dramatically lower than the average. So the blue is the average, by the way. And if I want to take away things to like look at something, I can do that as well. Okay. So, and then I can drill down. So if in this case, if I wanted to see this resident, and he's this person, he is not spending enough time, they've got a lot of questions, or they're spending a lot of time and they're not doing well, I can just hone in on them. I double click on it, and now I'm in this particular resident's performance for last year, and I can see every test they took. This is this test. This is the topic, and as you can see, this it works like a spreadsheet. You can just play with it, and then the improvement. How do they improve from their pre-test? So right here, you can see all this data. Again, with one quick view, I know how this resident's doing, their average score, how many questions, and these are all key metrics for these programs. And then I also see it by topic view of how this person's doing. This person's not doing great in some of these topics, so I can use this as a way to mediate with them and talk to them about ways to improve their performance. And that's what they're using this for. So this is another example. This is completely not really what you would think as course delivery, but it's really an aspect of an advanced learning program.
Nice.
And of course, there's always a Star Wars reference, or the one day off. Today's May 5th. It should have been done yesterday, right? I guess people are clamoring for May 4th. This is the built-in video player. So video, we talked about, this is another aspect of it, and you'll see the components in here that
the downside to this is that the plasma shield works both ways.
So if you're setting it at visible light, then you're effectively blind to visible light.
You would not know what's going on outside your.
We wanted to keep people awake. We can send them a message, make sure that they're paying attention. This particular message is tailorable. Where it goes, how it appears, all that. It could be much more aesthetic than that pop-up. But the key thing is we know every interaction. So we know that I actually click that at whatever timestamp, within what time stamp I did that, and how long it was present before I actually clicked it. So for people who are trying to do this for compliance, or just to make sure that people are paying attention and not just, I'm guilty of that too. When I subscribe to some of these webinars, I'll miss the session and then I'll watch it while I'm doing something else. But this will actually make sure that they're actively engaged. Okay. So this is video. And then we came back to just the courses themselves. It doesn't have to look like what you see in a course menu, where you have this left-hand course menu, and then you launch a course. In this case, you can have these very advanced dashboards that precede someone through a process. In this case, PLI has the leading patent bar exam prep in the world. They recommend that if you follow their process, there's actually a service guarantee, I believe, still that guarantees your performance is higher than the average nationally. So this is a sequence so that you go through and it tracks your progress, how much you've done, how your pace is, and when you should finish. And you go through the course, and it's all these videos and assessments. And as you do them, the progress and everything tracks. And then you can also see your performance and exam data that you've seen. Oh, I'm not showing screen here, am I?
There we go. Yep.
There. Sorry about that. An advanced dashboard here. So PLI is using this advanced dashboard to organize a process, a procedure that goes from the pre-course to the course, and then to the post-course. And within there's always analytics that you see how you've done through the course. It's a lot of drill and practice. So they really wanted to see how I'm doing against the peers and how my difference is. And this is a test user, but you could see how many attempts they made, what count attempt that was, how much time I spent, and how I did against my peers. This is a very engineering focused, very technical group. Even though they're lawyers, they're usually coming from chip manufacturers, places like that, where they used to work for Intel or Google, and they are now tired of developing and building software, and they're now becoming patent lawyers. So it's the nature of this course and the way it's tracking the data for these participants is to guide them through what is detailed in pretty thorough exam. So by doing this, and they take the course, and this person, in fact, John White is a leading expert in the patent bar process. They're using the videos that our video engine to lead them through lectures from John White here.
Relying on the applicant's disclosure to create this
and he's a very enthusiastic guy. It's a very popular course for them. So this is the built-in video player. So I'll stop and just take note of all the things that we showed. These are advanced capabilities for advanced organizations that are either there. It doesn't need to be an issue of how big they are, but they're looking at learning in a different way. They've reached a threshold with the programs and the offerings they have, typically because they've built an ecosystem of learning, and they need expertise to come in, understand their situation, and many times help them integrate the solution into their overall ecosystem. Whether it's a CRM, the SSO, content management, those are the typical touch points, and e-commerce, and then obviously other LMS that they want to provide, and then the advanced features to also gain benefit from, in fact, is analytics, the data behind all these charts. These are charts that we develop for them, but then the client also has the example of getting these. Now, this looks like a lot of data, but what this is every heartbeat that we were doing in that course, as you can see, Mississippi generated these data points and a tracking number. So just like your UPS package that you're waiting for from Amazon, you get a tracking ID, right? Or from eBay. These are tracking IDs for everything I did in that course. And if I click on it, you'll actually see the payload. Now, this looks very technical, but what you're seeing here is a payload that was sent to the clients. I can't zoom in very much on this. Let me see if I can do it better here. But what you'll see here is a payload that says what was the course, what variant it was, my timestamps, my information like that, and then also the time spent. This was the launch, so I didn't spend any time, and then my user identification. So they take this and then put it in their own analytics as well. A little bit down in the details, but the key thing is that I wanted to emphasize that we have all that data, and then with it, the key components of the reporting and the video are the additional capabilities to do behaviors. We'll just go to one that has behaviors here. Behaviors, conditions. So if then that. And then we also have the ability to do templates where basically you set one template for a page and reuse it, and theming. So if you wanted to see this particular client's theme, they just changed their logo. We just uploaded it and it reflected in all the courses. If you had to do that in Articulate, you would have to republish those courses, take them down, upload all those courses. It would take days. This was a second of change, just the logo, no exaggeration. Another example was they changed the font family of the course to Poppins. I always chuckle when I hear that name, but Poppins was the font family selected. I'm sure someone made a lot of money making Poppins, but Poppins, and you can see there are other ones that are options and built into the tool set. And then, styles, they have styles here too. So all of this is in there. In addition, we know that there are other providers out there that clients go to for syndication. There's, very valuable, good tools out there and services. This is already built into the platform too. So if, let's say in these clients' example, the client has their own customer that comes and needs this course launched from their LMS, it's no problem. And we don't have to also be dependent on an LMS. There are clients that have scenarios where they want to just launch it from CRM or a support desk or from Microsoft Teams. These are all just authentication launches, and this can be totally supported within Simpatico. I've talked a lot, John. I'll pause and make sure with my time remaining, I can answer any questions or clarify anything.
Wow, this is some deep stuff. About
on a Friday afternoon. Sorry,
Friday afternoon, deep stuff. So, I guess for the audience watching this, let's clarify. So, professional from an ideal customer profile standpoint here that would want this. So, this is going to be organizations that teach the highest end of the highest end. So, like, we saw surgeons, we saw lawyers. So expand on that some more. Like,
yeah, that's
what type of organizations would find the most value in this? That just based on your experience of where the common systems just fall down and then they try to do this customer.
It is organization. There are a few types of organizations or needs. I would probably say needs more than organization types because we go cross industry. Although the examples were heavy in insurance and surgery, medical, healthcare, and in legal. As you can see, they were not just in one vertical. Although sometimes an example we'll probably give is too much in healthcare or whatever. But the key needs or the profiles of these organizations are they're maturing beyond the needs of a Articulate course. Now, they also have Articulate and they want to bundle it in other ways so that they have the benefit of Articulate, but also some of these other tools like video or reporting. And they just can't do that. You can try to do that in Articulate. You'll have to hire custom coding, and then you just have, you're hacking away at a tool that's not built for that. So one is they've extended all their capabilities and they require more from the learning experience. So they don't have the resources internally or don't want to spend them to create custom solutions. Two, they need pretty specific integration methods to either to launch the content, to juxtapose the content and the right experience, and also pull data from the learning experience. That'll be like a second category. And the third will be they have very specific needs for one of our features. Like some of our clients have just come because what you see on screen, a video, they need to be very specific about the video and track their performance in it and then build in quizzing into the video. They'll come in for that and then their needs expand. So some of the examples we brought earlier, those clients they started one way, but they've expanded the usage of Simpatico into others. Another group, like the example of the ROC curriculum for the orthopedics, that started with just the report need. But in theory, the content can also be launched through our platform as well and assembled in a much more dynamic and enriching way. So those three are the symptoms or the categories that are typically used. They're hitting a wall with either the vendor won't do it because the vendor is pretty much partitioned to, this is our rule set and this is what we got to do, and we don't play it with others. Or the platform itself has some limitations because either the user experience is poor and or the integration capabilities are weak. And then probably another one is just the experience in learning, it's inflexible. So these are places where we thrive. And we have the flexibility. We're not going in each place and creating bespoke software. We have a basis foundation and we have configuration capabilities that allow us to move nimbly without also just creating custom code everywhere, which will not benefit either side.
Wow. Outstanding. Thank you.
You
found yourself a niche that nobody else is playing in. This is
well, that means a lot coming from you. So thank you.
is above my head. I mean, I wouldn't even know how, as a LMS selection consultant, I'd have a hard time even defining the requirements for something like this. And so, I think anybody that's watching this, is going to self-identify of, all the challenges that you just gave me. They're gonna be, oh my gosh, that's exactly my problem. I can't do any of this, where I'm doing this in a custom basis, and I'm spending a truckload of hours of administration time trying to keep all this up and completely gray.
You're right, John, in that typically we find that people that do come to us with the immediate need, they're like, we've been looking for this and we haven't found it in anything else. So we've been probably more reactive in this than proactive, in that we're just typically acting on behalf of someone, bailing someone out or coming in to solve a very specific need, and they typically need us quickly to get deployed. So, we try to liken ourselves to a SWAT team that's, an expert. We're not going to, what we also want to be avoiding of is, the 3-week consultation discovery session before we get involved. No, we want to get involved quickly, move actively to iterate a solution using existing infrastructure as much as possible, leverage the existing investments, and then expand. I think the fourth category are they see the semblances of what they want with the vision we have, and they want to marry it and advance a certain product they have, and are willing to invest with us on a particular new product development. And new product development is usually another fourth category where we're helping them envision that experience. They have a business objective, they have some concepts, and we'll put that together with them. We have a significant bench of user experience people and product development people that would also partner with them to do that. And we get involved in everything in terms of a recommendation and also the action of data. All this affects data migration, historical records, reporting, all that, APIs. We'll get involved in all that. As you could imagine, these groups don't always have that right off the bat.
So you could care less, to summarize then, what any of these platforms are that they're using. They could be, on 1 or 10 different LMSs, multiple authoring tools, any type of content, any
That's
CRM, any SSO, anything, and you bring it all together and make it usable.
That's right. That's what we're trying to do. And to the extent that we can remain neutral, obviously we have our own preferences. We consider ourselves craftsmen and true to the profession and ethical standards. But as such, we also have our preferred tools to be more efficient. So those tools happen to be ones that we develop, but we're not going to also require it for us to be effective. They just will make it easier for us to do the things we want to do usually.
Wow. All right, listeners. Well, if you have high-end training programs, professional education programs, continuing education programs, if you especially have variations of that same course that you're selling that changes by country to state to locale to individual customers, and you're managing all that by hand, if you're trying to program these things in and write each one of those courses individually, I mean, that's so 2021. I mean, that's
that's right.
that's exactly 2021.
Succinctly. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Authentic's, the solution that can pull it all together and really provide that technical horsepower and professional service expertise to understand these complex situations and bring it all together and make your program more effective and more effective in a way that you can readily prove it through these dashboards and just see exactly where you're at the most minute or the big picture way. No matter how you judge your programs, you'd be able to construct it just in the right way. And so, Tamer, that's some pretty special stuff. That is hard to get my head around, even of these programs of trying to manage these things on a from PLI standpoint or the ExamFX standpoint. That's some serious training programs. So, yeah, great job. Keep up the good work. Holy
Thank
cow.
you, John. That means a lot coming from you, and we appreciate the time and the thoughtful consideration on everything. So
Nice.
we'll be happy to
How do they get a
address
hold of
any
you?
questions. Email is tamer@authenticlabs.io. our website is authenticlabs.io. That's the best way. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I think I'm one of the only Tamer Alis, but you'll find me as Tamer, Tamer, Ali, Ali.
All right, Tamer, thanks for stopping by on the Executive Briefing Series. This was a good one. And audience, thanks for tuning in to another episode. And we hope to see you on the next. Have a great day,
John.
everyone.
Take care, John.